Okay, so the next assignment is going to focus in on the book we're reading and some of the issues that she's discussing in her book. Okay, so it's WFA number 3, the scope of anti-Black racism. WFA number 3. In the book, they say this will be fun. Attorney Martis discusses the scope of anti-Black racism she faced about Western University. In a 8 to 12 slide PowerPoint presentation, identify at least 3 examples of anti-Black racism she faced. The examples that you use must be a mixture of both overt racism and microaggressions. What does the audience learn about anti-Black racism through her experience? Okay, so the PowerPoint the goal of the PowerPoint is to identify the types of anti-Black racism she deals with, right? And making sure that in your identifying at least 3, you have some that are extremely overt, which means right in your face, and some that are subtle ones that lend to the idea of microaggressions. And we'll talk more about that when we're developing our success criteria. Here are the strategies. So we're learning how to read in different texts and interpret information, how to get information for a proper presentation, how to edit it using proper sentence and spelling and grammar in order to convey information that's clear. All right. Breaking down the assignment into its steps. Knowledge understanding. I know I can identify at least 3 examples of anti-Black racism from in this book. They said this will be fun. Again, through conversations and through your feedback, you're going to demonstrate the knowledge. You're going to identify 3 different types of anti-Black racism. So use planning skills for thinking. Use planning skills. I know that my PowerPoint should use concise, point-form information rather than just long sentences and paragraphs. This is very important. Sometimes people in PowerPoint presentations just basically write an essay. I don't want that. I want it to be concise information that allows me to understand what's going on. Use of critical thinking skills. I know that I have to identify times in which the author experiences overt anti-Black racism. At least 1, no more than 3. So you identify either one time or multiple times she experiences that. So again, at least 1, but no more than 3. I know that I must identify time or times in which the author experienced microaggressions. At least 1, no more than 3. So you can do 2 overt, 1 microaggression, or 2 microaggression, 1 overt, or you can do 2 microaggressions and 2 overt, because all I say you should have at least 3. You can have more than 3 examples if you choose to have it. I know that I must use quotes from the book to support my examples of anti-Black racism. Again, that means being able to go back to the book and point to a certain part where Eternity is discussing her experience with anti-Black racism or statements she's made about anti-Black racism or information she brings up in her book. Okay, I know that for communication, expression of organization and ideas and information, I know that my PowerPoint presentation must use proper spelling and use language that is clear and concise, which means make sure you spell your words that are all, make sure you spell the words correctly and make sure that your writing is clear and concise, which means it is easily understood and it gets straight to the point, right? You don't build up, you don't add lots of stuff to fill out your situation. You just clearly express the information as best you can. And the last part is the writing process, outlining rough drafts, file drafts. You need to complete those in front of me when possible. And when you submit your work, make sure you have the proper MLE formatted cal page. You can send me a digital copy that looks as ready to go. Okay, so that's the evaluation sheet. Does anyone have any questions? Now, this is a new assignment. When I give new assignments, with the class that I do it with, on a first attempt, we try to work and develop the success criteria together so everyone knows what they're doing. The only thing I start with is identifying the goal. So the goal of the assignment is to identify anti-Black racism, to identify different types of anti-Black racism, to provide evidence, to defend an argument, and to develop critical thinking skills. Okay, so those are the things you need to do in order to achieve this goal. All right? So if we're going to break it down to these steps, let's talk about what you're doing each step. Yeah. Okay, anti-black racism means that it's racism, that's it's actions that impede black people. So anti-black means that if you're anti-black, that means you're against black people. So the term anti-black racism is to acknowledge that there are forms of racism, specifically the ones we're talking about, deals with racism directed towards black people in order to limit them or restrict them or to harm them. Right. Excellent. Yeah, excellent. It means anti-black racism means you're against black people. Yes. Okay, so step one, what is the first step we should do in this assignment? Yeah. So, read book. Okay. So you should have read up to chapters 6 or 7. I can't remember what those chapters are, but again, it means that you have to sort of count the ones with introduction. So you've done almost 2 chapters a day. So you need to be almost halfway through the book, I would say, for you to say, okay, that should be enough room to gather evidence. Okay? You can do more, but this is enough. Okay? So we've read the book, we've got about chapter 7. Now we've done a good chunk of reading. The next thing, what's the next thing we need to do? Not yet. What do we do before the outline? Okay, take notes or gather. Okay. Notes, we're also going to call it gather research. Right? So the thing we need to do is we need to identify moments of anti-racism, and we just to define it so everyone knows, anti Okay. So you have to identify moments of anti-Black racism, right? Which means you have to look for those specific things, right? And, you look at should find both overt and microaggressive behavior. Okay, so you need to have both of those things there, right? When you are choosing her experience, you should answer the following question. Answer the following questions. Okay. So you should answer the following questions to these things. This will help you identify whether this event you talk about is a good example of the anti-Black racism, right? Which is one, what is happening? Right. So if you talked about the fact that she talks about going on the bus and having not the Black did not look at her, or she talks about Megan as a Italian teacher on her in class, or her boyfriend Sunil that she's dating, making a big deal that she's Black and Pakistani. Whatever it is, you need to identify what's happening to her, or the thing that you're choosing as his example of this anti-Black racism, right? Then when you say what's happening, you need to what type of anti-Black racism is happening. Okay. So what type of anti-Black racism is happening to the person, right? Is it again overt, which means it's straightforward, it's direct, there's no it's in your face, or is it this microaggressive behavior, which is some of these passive comments done over time and time again that eventually lead up to the person just becoming overwhelmed or tired or angry about those constant reminders, those constant little comments may be made to them. Okay, I'll just put it here. And then you're going to want to have the evidence used for your position. Evidence used for two. Okay. Which means Quotes from text. Okay, so three things we're going to do is what is happening, what type of anti-blockade is happening. We're going to go, what is your evidence used to support this position, your position? That's what you need to do to gather information for this thing. So you should have not just the three you think are important, but have a good, you want to create notes for about 5 to 10 different types of situations that happen in the book, and then you just choose the ones that would have the best information for it. Right, are the ones that you can make your argument, right? So you want to incidents to base. Okay, is there anything else that we think we should put here? Anything else that you want to add that you think that needs to be here in your anything else you should put here that you need to do in the research part of the process? So if no one's saying no, we've got we've read enough of the book. We've identified 10 things. We've asked those questions. Those questions have led us to the idea that yes, these are the things I need for. These are good points I want to use in my PowerPoint. So we've done that. We said you choose 5 to 10 instances in the book, but you only really use 3 or a little bit more if you want to. You've done all of that. What's the next step? Yes, but before we make a PowerPoint, we have to start with before that outline. No, because this first part is just gathering information. Outline is outline. So outline is going to follow a similar pattern. So we want to say the first slide is, of course, your MLA formatted title page. Second slide. What is the purpose of this PowerPoint? What is the purpose of this PowerPoint presentation? Okay, what should be on the third slide? Is there anything we have to prove? That is, this part here is what you would call your thesis, the entity. This part is what you're going to use as your thesis statement, what you're going to prove. So this statement, and so this statement is going to kind of be like this. Right. So basically, it should sound something like this. This is an example of it. You don't have to word for word, but the way how it's sort of structured here is when reading through the experiences of attorney Martis, the audience is left with the idea that anti-black racism is devastating to someone's mental health. It is a true experience, right? Or it is devastating to an individual's sense of self-worth. It is a tiring aspect, or it's a tiring aspect of getting society. Whatever you want to put here, whatever you're going to prove, you put it in that sort of structure. So you can change the structure of the part of the statement, but you want to tell me that the author did this specifically to address Black anti-Black racism. What do you think it is? Okay. So, fourth slide is, and I'm just going to do this pretty quickly and I'll add the details in later. You can look at is your second strongest proof of anti-Black racism. Okay, remember we do it when we structure things. I always go with the second strongest point, the weakest point in the middle, and then the strongest point at the end, because you want to start strong. So you want to have a sort of a very strong thing you want to sort of focus your attention to. Then the next part, not that it's not good, but it's not as, let's say, strong as the strongest point that you're going to make, and you end with your strongest point. Okay? And when you see all these slides probably go from slides 4 because in these things you're going to use stakeholder explain. You're going to make a statement about identifying the type of anti-Black racism. You're going to provide a quote from the book and explain why the quote establishes the anti-Black racism that you stated, right? And that's going to be the structure for each of your body paragraphs or reasons, right? Which is the statement What is the mhm. Then you have the quote, this evidence from, then you explain. Why does the evidence, why does the quote, sorry, prove the statement? Okay, and use that process 2 more times. Okay, you can do it more than 3. That's up to you. I wouldn't do 15 of them, but if you do 3 to 4, it's fine. It's a minimum of 3. And again, remember, it has to be at least one has to be microaggression, at least one has to be overt. The third one can be either one. It doesn't matter. Right? But you have to have one example of each for 2 out of 3 reasons that support your point. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly, again, I'm just going to copy and paste this because I'm going to edit this and change it a little bit before I post it. But it's going to pretty much be the same thing, except the reasons are going to change a little bit. So here, I would say the now, what I mean weakest, it doesn't mean don't say this is the weakest thing. I'm just saying to get you to think about it as a structural system of what is the best part, what is the weakest part, what is the part that's somewhat in the middle. Okay, think of it like a movie. A movie always a good movie, a good or action movie will start with a very spectacular sequence in the beginning. Or think about a James Bond film as a good example. They'll always start with some sort of ridiculous chase scene that's supposed to get your attention. Like, whoa. And then in the middle of the movie, they kind of do a little bit of explanation, they break down what's going on. And by the climax of the movie, the ending sequence where James Bond has to take on whoever, it's supposed to be the best action sequence, the best chase sequence, the best resolution because it's the strongest point. Same thing when you write essays, the same thing when you write uh, um, pieces of fiction. Always start with something that gets people's attention. The weaker moments you can do in the middle, and then you end with a very strong point. Then also, I'm saying these are the breakdown slides 10, 7 to 9, 10 to 12. I don't know if you'll need that many slides. You might choose a pattern where you can have this information on only 2 slides. I'm just sort of giving you a space of you have to have these 3 points there. How you organize it on your PowerPoint slide is totally up to you. Okay. So it's your thesis statement. Right, choose discuss how the information above proves your thesis. Then you're also going to explain why the thesis statement is important in understanding how to combat anti-Black racism. Okay, so that could be 13 or 14 slides. Depends how you break it down. It's up to you. So again, the structure of the number of slides here is totally how you would organize it. Again, depending upon the slides in PowerPoint, you might do, we have 2 columns, so you might be able to put information all on one slide. It's up to you. I'm giving you just a base structure, even though I said do it in 8 to 12 slides. Right now I have it at 13. It could be 14. If it's like 30 some odd slides, it's too much. If it's 2 slides, it's too little. So stay within that range, but if you go a little bit above the range, it's fine. Don't ever go below the range. And that's a good example for any time someone gives you a writing range. They really want you to go within that range, and they don't really care if you go a little bit above it. And sometimes they don't care if you go a little bit below it, but they don't really want you to go way below it. Right? So if you did it in 7 slides, but somehow you put all the information there and it's clear and concise and to the point, I wouldn't be that super angry. If you did it in 6 slides, I would question whether you can get all the information in 6. And if you did it in 5 slides, no. If you did it in 12 to 15 slides, great. If you did it in 15, 16 slides, okay. If it's 20 or plus slides, it's too much. Okay, so that's the kind of structure I'm looking for this assignment. Does anyone have any questions about this? Yes, Luke.
Is there also something to do about step 4?
No, I'm going to, step 4, I'm just going to block it out. I'm going to clean up a little bit and make sure it has the right words and editing, and I'll put it on Blackboard. But that's the structure of how I specifically want you to do it. Okay, so I'll probably just, yeah, when you see it on my Willow, it'll look a little different. I just thought, if in case we needed 4 steps, we use it, but we don't really need 4 steps. Anything else? Yes.
Also, is the thesis statement discussion similar at the conclusion?
Yes, right. Because yes, it is. We're not going to call it a conclusion here. Well, in a statement, in essays, you would use your conclusion would be the focus of your thesis statement. Here, we're calling it a thesis statement in the slide, but the same idea. You're summing up why all those points support your thesis statement. Okay. All right. So those of you, anyone online have any questions? All right. I'm going to